I got to remember how to do a podcast after a Kings win. Zack LaVine goes nuclear in Miami, dropping 42 points. Maxime Raynaud is undefeated as a starter. Nique Clifford has a career night off the bench. And the Sacramento Kings handed the Miami Heat just their third loss at home this season. A positive, happy podcast for you right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all season long. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News. I just saw my first Kings win since November 5th. It's been over a month since I've seen a Kings win and done a podcast after a Kings victory. Remember the two victories that the Kings had against Minnesota and Denver. I was on the road. I was on vacation at Disneyland during that time. So I gotta stretch this muscle a little bit. How do I talk about a Sacramento Kings win? Look, all my tankathon loving, the Kings need to lose every single game to secure the top draft pick. My tank crowd out there that thinks this loss is a bad thing, take a night off or just try and enjoy yourselves a little bit. Look, for the sake of the sanity of this Sacramento Kings fan base, we need a few wins sprinkled here and there throughout the season, even if, yes, losing and securing a high draft pick is probably the best case scenario for the Kings out of this season at this point. But the Kings beat the Heat 127-111. And there's no other place to start than talking about what Zach LaVine did, right? From the jump, Zach LaVine was dialed in offensively. He scored the first 8 points of the game, finished the night with 42 points on 50% shooting, 12 of 24. He went 8 of 13 from three-point range. He got to the foul line 11 times, knocking down 10 of those free throws. Also had 6 rebounds. Again, from the jump, this dude was dialed in. 18 points, 3 of 3 from three-point range in just the first quarter. At halftime, he already almost had a 30-piece, 29 points, 9 of 14 from the field, 6 of 7 from three-point range, 5 of 5 from the free throw line. Whatever his motivations were, maybe he was pissed off because he was coming off of that game the other night where he scored just 2 points and played just 19 minutes. Maybe he's heard what's been said about him from people like myself and members of the Sacramento media or the national media or fans on social media. Whoever it is, whatever it is, maybe that just fired him up, pissed him off, got him to play with a chip on his shoulder and got him to play with this F you attitude. I'm going to score and there's nothing anyone on the Miami Heat can do to stop me. Or maybe having a couple days off, getting a little bit of rest, not playing very much in the game the night before or the game before this one. Maybe it's being in Miami, where he played plenty of times over his career, being with the Chicago Bulls in the Eastern Conference. Whatever it is, Zach needs to find a way to bottle up that effort, bottle up that intensity and that being that locked in on the offensive side of the ball. Find that and make that the normal. I'm not talking about scoring 42 points, right? He was on fire in this game. And something we're going to talk about towards the end of the podcast when we look at some of the other numbers from tonight, it's not like Zach was just getting a lot of great looks through the flow of the offense. He was generating good looks, but Zach was also just scoring himself, right? He was putting the ball on the floor, he was getting to his spots, and he was knocking down shots. This was just one of those in Fuego Zach LaVine games that we know he's capable of because he is, when he wants to be, an elite 3-level scorer. We saw that in full force tonight. So I'm not saying, hey, Zach LaVine needs to score 42 points a night, but the intensity at which he played on offense, the hunger, the aggressiveness to score the basketball from the jump, the desire to set the tone. Zach LaVine set the tone that the Kings as a team fed off of the entire night, and the Miami Heat could not catch up to. Zach set the terms of how this game was going to go. That's what you need on a nightly basis from LaVine, who's being paid close to $50 million a year to do just that. And again, if it's because he's pissed off at whatever's been said about him, great. Because Zach, like whatever that is, Zach needs to find that and bottle that up, because this dialed in version of Zach LaVine is what the Sacramento Kings, is what any team who acquires him needs out of him. It's what makes that contract make sense. Also, I will say this too, because we're going to focus on the offense and praise the offense, and rightfully so, because Zach LaVine was incredible offensively in this game. But Zach defensively was really solid too. He didn't make these mind-blowing defensive plays or anything like that, but he played good defensively, stayed in front of his man, moved his feet, guarded with his chest. He did a good job on the defensive end of the floor. Not more than what we should expect from Zach, but like more than a good effort for him on that side of the floor. So, and maybe it helps when you're playing that good offensively, that defensively you feel a little more dialed in, you feel a little bit more fired up. But Zach overall had a really, really good game, and I want to make sure that we don't ignore the things that he did on the defensive end of the floor, because it was more subtle compared to the epic offensive night that he had. We've been very critical of Zach LaVine as a fan base, and rightfully so. I've been very critical of Zach LaVine recently here on the Locked On Kings podcast. There's been a question and multiple questions from a lot of people about how much Zach even wants to be here in Sacramento, how much he cares, how engaged he is with this Kings team right now. This performance is awesome, but it can't just be a one-off. And again, I'm not talking about the 42 points. I'm talking about the effort that Zach LaVine played with. That's what you need to see on a nightly basis, or at least something close to this. And if the shots aren't falling, then the shots aren't falling. But you can still be dialed in. You can still be as engaged as Zach was in this game. But it looked like the King. Tonight looked like an episode of Freaky Friday, or the movie Freaky Friday, where the Kings and the Heat swapped souls, because the Heat are the number one team in pace, and the Sacramento Kings ran all over Miami in this game. The Kings had 25 fast break points. It looked like the Miami Heat, like early on in the third quarter, when the Kings came out after a really, really good first half and continued to punch the Heat in the mouth. Like, they didn't take their foot off the gas. They kept pushing, and it looked like the Heat just mailed it in. Like, it looks like they just kind of quit or kind of gave up or accepted, you know what, tonight's a loss, is what it is, on to the next one. That's what it looked like. And that's something that we've seen the Sacramento Kings do far too many times this season. And the Kings looked like they recognized it, they smelled blood, and they kept on attacking. Again, the script was flipped for Sacramento, and it's nice to be on the right side of that. Look, if there's Heat fans in the comment section responding to this podcast right now, I don't need y'all to list out the list of excuses. I know it was the second night of a back-to-back. I know Tyler Hero and Davion Mitchell weren't playing. Davion Mitchell, by the way, former Sacramento King, he has been having a phenomenal year for the Miami Heat. So that's a big loss for them, in addition to, of course, Tyler Hero. We know how good Tyler Hero is, right? I get it. This is about the Kings, though. Because it doesn't matter who the Kings are playing, doesn't matter the name on the front of the jersey or the back of the jersey. Doug Christie talked about this a lot last season. The Kings are playing blank canvases. They don't care. It doesn't matter who's lining up in front of them. It's about the Sacramento Kings building their own habits, playing the right way, not shooting themselves in the foot, putting together close to a 48-minute effort as they can. This season, it's been more about when you're doing the right things, not getting bored of doing the right things. So all the excuses from the Miami Heat, I don't really care. This is a good win for the Sacramento Kings, regardless of who they're playing. I would have said the same thing if they were playing like the Washington Wizards tonight. Does not matter. It's how the Kings played. It's how the Kings were dialed in, how the Kings attacked this game and played and were in control really from start to finish. That's really positive. And we still haven't talked about Maxime Raynaud getting his first start. Nique Clifford. I mean, I know Zach LaVine's getting the spotlight tonight, but Nique Clifford was phenomenal off the bench. Keegan Murray had a really nice bounce-back game. Even DeMar DeRozan and Russell Westbrook had some sneaky good games. I'm still going to get into all of that coming up here on the podcast. This episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by Prize Picks. The holiday season is one of the best times for sports, whether it's bowl games, big basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at the same time. And while we're all making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. Just pick more or less on at least 2-player projections, lock in your lineup, and you're in the game. It's simple, fast, and available in 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. Prize Picks has added an extra layer of excitement to the holiday sports schedule. Creating a lineup takes less than a minute, and the app makes the whole process smooth and intuitive. You can choose from a huge range of unique stats like their fantasy score, field goals attempted, free throws made, turnovers, whatever fits your strategy. They have the new early payout feature, which is a great bonus when your lineup starts really strong. You may get the option to cash out early, and they have a new stacks feature, which I love. It lets you choose the same player up to 3 times in one lineup. If you're playing football, for example, and you're taking like Brock Purdy, you can take a QB's passing yards, touchdowns, and rushing yards, all for the same game. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play that first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Stop me when I'm lying. Maxime Raynaud, when he starts in the NBA, is undefeated, averages a double-double, and his team wins by an average of 16 points. Facts are facts. Find the lie. I was so excited to see Max get the start tonight. Another great decision by Doug Christie that just makes a tremendous amount of sense. No disrespect to Drew Eubanks. He's not been as bad as I see some people talk about him. There's actually some things that Drew Eubanks has done that have surprised me this season, things that I've been pleasantly surprised with. But we know what it is with Drew. We know he's a placeholder on this roster. He's here for the year. Maxime Raynaud has the potential to actually be part of this Kings team's future. And based off of how he's played over these last 4 games now, he absolutely looks like he will be a part of the Kings' future. Here's the biggest compliment that I could give Max. And this sounds like a backhanded comment. I promise you it's not. And it's not sarcastic by any means. The biggest thing that stood out to me in this performance from Maxime Raynaud is that he looked like he belonged. He didn't look like he was out of his depth whatsoever. Maxime Raynaud got the start against a Miami Heat team that is really good. He matched up at times with Bam Adebayo, and he looked good. He looked like he belonged. He did not look out of his depth at all. 19 seconds into this game, he picked up a foul. And I made a note of it. I'm like, he one of the first possessions of the game for Miami, it might have even been the first possession, he got called for his first foul. I'm thinking, oh boy, here we go. Max might get into foul trouble immediately, and that might take him out of his rhythm. No. He stayed out of foul trouble for the entire game. Like, he looked like an NBA player, an NBA starting caliber player. Now, we know what it is. It's a 1-game sample size. As much as fun as it is to talk about those numbers and talk about him being undefeated as a starter, we all know Domantas Sabonis is waiting in the wings. When Domas comes back from his knee injury, he should be reevaluated here in the next week or two. When he comes back, Max is going to go back to the bench. We know this. Hopefully Max's minutes don't plummet. He needs to stay around 20 minutes a game, and that means maybe Drew Eubanks is out of the rotation. I don't know. But when Domas comes back, we know that's Domas' spot, regardless of if the Kings are trying to win, lose, good, bad. Like, it is what it is. But Max proved coming into tonight that he deserved the shot. And based off of how Max played tonight, he deserves to be that starting center for Sacramento until the time that Domantas Sabonis returns. 12 points, 6 of 11 from the field, 10 rebounds, 2 blocks. Just a really good performance from Maxime Raynaud, a second-round pick, a rookie against the Miami Heat. Really, really encouraging game from him. I was very excited to see that, and I'm very excited to see how he builds upon it. There will be bad moments, there will be good moments. But for the most part, like the vast majority of this game for Max was good. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And then there's Nique Clifford. If you missed the podcast I did yesterday, I collabed with the Royal Report. And if you haven't checked that podcast out, it was great. One of the things that we talked about was with both the rookies, but especially with Nique, I want to see an aggressiveness and a fearlessness for Nique Clifford. You're going to get playing time. You're going to get opportunities. There are going to be times where you are facing down some of the biggest stars in the league, and you either have to defend them defensively, try and score on them, whatever. There are going to be welcome to the NBA rookie moments where you get knocked down and maybe you get embarrassed a little bit. It's going to happen. Don't be afraid of them. You're getting the playing time. You're on a bad basketball team, a losing basketball team, a team that should be focusing and is finally starting to focus on their future, to which you are a part of that future. They have the confidence in you. They had enough confidence in you to trade into the first round to go and get you. Wear that confidence as a shield against embarrassing yourself or making mistakes. Go out there and play hard and play without fear. And that's what we saw from Nique Clifford in this game. Nique Clifford, 15 points, 7 of 8 from the field, 1 of 1 from three-point range, 6 rebounds, 1 steal off the bench. A career high for him. And I love the fact that 7 of his 8 field goal attempts were inside the three-point line. I would like to see Nique shoot more threes, of course. I would like to see that field goal attempt number go from 8 to like 10, and Nique is taking 3 threes in the game. But it wasn't like Nique was just relying on floor spacing and open threes, catch and shoot. Like he had a back-to-back possessions where late in the shot clock he attacks and he gets bumped, doesn't get room to attack the rim. So he steps back and hits a mid-range jumper that looked a lot like DeMar DeRozan. I think he's learning a thing or two from playing with DeMar. Knocks down the shot. Kings get a stop. They run out in transition. DeMar finds Nique Clifford, doesn't hesitate, pulls up and knocks down the transition 3. Like, fantastic. Nique looked completely fearless in this game. And I'm so happy to see it. Right? Like that right there is all I can ask for. And if he went 2 of 8 from the field, like there'd certainly be elements of being disappointed. If he'd missed a lot of the open looks, we'd be going, you got to start knocking those down, rookie. But you're happy to see him shooting. If you can take this performance from Nique Clifford, the way he's playing, the aggressiveness that he played with, and say that's who he's going to be for the vast majority of the remainder of the season, we're going to see good things. We may even see great things where finally Nique has that breakout performance. It's coming. I feel like it's coming. And I think the Kings are going to feel pretty good about what they have with both Nique and Max going into this offseason, where, of course, changes are going to be made. This, like, the best case scenario for tonight probably would have been these guys play this well and the Kings lose. I guess if we're talking about true best case scenario in terms of tanking, securing a draft pick, blah, 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 blah. Like I said, though, at the beginning of the show, it's nice to have these wins. It's nice to feel that validation. It's just nice to see the freaking beam, if we're being honest. But we saw a game where Zack LaVine, and it's fair to still question Zack LaVine's future and how much of a part of that future he's going to be and his fit here in Sacramento and what the long-term plan is with him, right? That one really, really good game doesn't change that. But we also saw Zack have a great game and the veterans play heavy minutes without sacrificing the opportunities for the young guys. And the same night where Zack was cooking and led the Kings to a victory, Maxime Raynaud and Nique Clifford separated themselves and shined against a really good Miami Heat team. That is so great to be able to say. This episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is also brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. Whether it's a receiver getting hot, a defense starting to tighten up, or the momentum flipping after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment with live spreads and money lines that adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every game, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. It was also a really nice bounce-back performance from Keegan Murray in this game. Offensively, he struggled the other night, and so he answered with a 16-point performance, 6 of 11 from the field. I would love those field goal attempt numbers to be higher, but when Zack LaVine is having the night like he's having, taking over 20 shots, I get it. 2 of 5 from three-point range, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 blocks. Having multiple steals and multiple blocks in each stat line is just becoming a staple of Keegan Murray at this point. He's doing it every single night. Keegan was the second leading scorer for the Kings in this game. One thing that really stood out to me when I was watching Keegan in this game, and I'm sure he's been doing it since he came back, but I really noticed it tonight. Watch where Keegan is looking as best as you can through the television, or if you're watching a game in person. Look at Keegan's eyes when he gets the basketball. The first thing he's looking at now is the rim. First thing. He catches the ball, eyes are on that rim. Can I score? How do I score? He's looking to score right away. That is his instinct. That's his first impulse with this role with the Sacramento Kings now. Score. And I'm sure he's done that from time to time over the course of his career. It quite literally was every time he touched the ball, he was looking to shoot. And I love that he took some contested threes in this game, but he shot them no hesitation. Coming off the curl, caught the ball, let it fly. Again, he knocked down 2 of 5 3-point attempts. The quick trigger, the fearlessness, like we talked about with Nique Clifford, that fearlessness from Keegan to let it fly, to get those shots up. Like this, again, best case scenario with Zach LaVine dropping 42 points and it not just being an empty stat line, meaningless Kings win in the middle of December of a bad season where Zach decides to catch fire all of a sudden, right? Nique got his, Max got his, Keegan Murray was the second leading scorer. Really, really good stuff from Keegan. Other numbers to keep an eye on from this game before we wrap up. First and foremost, like I said at the beginning of the show when we were talking about Zach set the tone offensively and his Kings teammates fed off of it. He was so good offensively and knocking down so many shots that it became infectious. I love one of the things Doug Christie talks a lot about is the ball has energy. The ball had energy. The ball was zipping around. The ball was moving. That didn't impact assists, though, as much as I thought it would. We'll talk about that in just a second. But the Kings had 6 players in double figures. All 5 starters and Nique Clifford off of the bench finished with double figures. Defensively, offensively, they were super good, but defensively, they were generating stops and getting out in transition. The reason why they had 25 fast break points is because they were getting stops and getting out in transition. And defensively, the Kings held the Heat to 47 points in the second and third quarters combined. That's where they won this game. Zach LaVine established himself in the first quarter, but the Kings still led by, I think, only 3 points. It's 34-31 at the end of the first quarter. Second, third quarter, that's where the Kings won this game. They created separation, led by as many as 28. Game was over at that point. Like I said, the Miami Heat looked like they folded. They let it go early in that third quarter. But this number is interesting to me, and I'll tell you what this number tells me. Kings had maybe their best offensive night of the season as a team. They made 49 shots. Only 24 of them were assisted. So less than half of their buckets were assisted. I'm not searching to find a negative in any case here. I'm just telling you, what does this mean? That means that the Kings were doing a really good job. Zach LaVine especially was doing a really good job just scoring the basketball, getting to his shots and his spots, and he was shooting so well. He was so on fire that everything he was putting up was dropping, right? And there were, to be fair, there were a couple plays where LaVine got open, the Kings found him a nice feed, and he knocked down the shot on a catch and shoot. But that's why we can't just say, hey, take this performance and do it every single night, because the Kings can't rely on this many made baskets not coming off of assists, coming off of isolation scoring. It helps when you have two of the best ISO scorers in the league in LaVine and DeRozan. And when one of them is on the way LaVine was on, yeah, you can ride that to a victory from time to time. It's not necessarily a long-term recipe for success. It worked tonight, but it's just something that caught my eye. But another good number, the Kings, without Domantas Sabonis, were +5 on the glass. They out-rebounded the Miami Heat, which is something great to see, especially in a game where Maxime Raynaud got the start. DeMar DeRozan and Russell Westbrook both had sneaky good games too. I know Russ turned the ball over a lot of times, but Russ had 12 points, 10 assists, 3 steals. DeMar DeRozan, 13 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals. He didn't have to take a primary scoring role in this game because Zack LaVine was that guy. I know I talked recently about wanting to see the two of them have good nights at the same time or get theirs offensively at the same time, like both of them having 20 to 25 points on the same game. We'll still have to wait and see if they can do that consistently. Tonight, they didn't have to because LaVine was so on fire. DeRozan didn't have to do that, but he still reached double figures. Played 40 minutes in this game, though. It worked for tonight, but Doug, I don't think we need to see DeRozan play 40 minutes, really, ever, for the rest of this season, unless he's having the kind of scoring night that LaVine is. But I don't even think LaVine played 40 minutes in this game. So DeRozan, 40 minutes too many. One more note about Russ that's important. Russell Westbrook passed Allen Iverson tonight for 14th all-time in the NBA in steals, so congratulations to Russ. Boy, it's fun to see a beam into a positive podcast. I like it. It's fun. And next, the Kings are taking on the Indiana Pacers to wrap up this road trip, and the Pacers, because of Tyrese Halliburton's injury and a lot of different factors, the Pacers, who of course were the Eastern Conference champions last year and made it to the NBA Finals, well, they're having a down year. So it's a very winnable game for the Kings. Maybe they can start another 2-game win streak coming back to Sacramento. They'll take on the Denver Nuggets on Thursday, I believe, next week. So, yep, they get the Nuggets again, I know. Followed by the Minnesota Timberwolves again, I know. It's just the way the schedule shook out with the Kings not making it into the next round of the NBA Cup. Is what it is, but I'm excited. I'm happy to do a positive podcast. I want to hear from you. Your thoughts on tonight's game, how Max and Nique played, Zack LaVine's performance. Does it change the way you feel about Zack at all? What are you looking for from Zack now going forward? Hit me up. Let me know at MattGeorgeSack on Twitter. Email me, MattGeorgeSports@gmail.com, and leave your thoughts in the YouTube comment section down below. Appreciate your support as always. Can't wait to have you join me on the next episode of Locked On Kings. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.